Welcome to Oroleyengbo Show. This is Deep Conversation Podcast Talk Show with Dr. Olabanji Olagunju.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode.
Absolutely. And as always, we're here to unpack the stories that matter and spark conversations that drive change.
Imagine being a chief priest in a bustling Yoruba town in southwestern Nigeria, several centuries ago.
Right. You're basically the ultimate authority on reality itself.
Exactly. I mean, for generations, your family has been the absolute go-to for destiny. When the rains fail, or a strange illness strikes, or like a king needs to make a critical decision, they come to your temple.
Because you're the one who consults the spiritual realm. You speak with the ancestors and you provide the answers.
Yeah, you are the absolute center of their world. But now, imagine waking up one Friday and realizing that a significant portion of your town they aren't coming to the temple anymore.
Wow. Yeah. That would be completely disorienting.
Right. Instead, they are down in the marketplace, kneeling alongside foreign merchants, praying in a language you don't even understand, and facing toward a distant city called Mecca.
And the craziest part is that it doesn't happen with some massive invading army.
No, not at all. It happens on a random Tuesday, right amidst the trading of textiles and spices.
Yeah, I mean, it is a profound psychological earthquake. And the shockwave of that moment, it isn't just about changing the specific name of the deity someone prays to.
No, it's way bigger than that.
It is. It fundamentally rewires the entire architecture of a civilization. It shifts where power lives, how people define their own identities, and honestly, what they consider to be the ultimate truth of their existence.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today we are exploring the profound spiritual and cultural transformation of the Yoruba people. Our mission for you today is to pull apart the mechanics of this massive societal shift.
It's such a complex topic.
It really is. We're going to look at how the arrival of new faiths, specifically Islam and Christianity, triggered this incredibly messy and often painful tug-of-war. We are exploring that delicate balance between preserving ancestral wisdom and, seeking global connection.
And to really grasp the stakes of this transformation,
Yeah.
we have to establish the baseline first.
Yes, exactly. We have to look at the bedrock of Yoruba society long before there was any contact with foreign merchants or missionaries.
Right, and that baseline is a highly structured, deeply rooted spiritual and cultural system. This wasn't just some loose, informal collection of villages.
No, not at all.
It was a highly sophisticated society guided by a triad of leadership. You had the kings, the elders, and the chief priests. And their roles, they extended far beyond simple administration.
They really did. The source material refers to them as the custodians of tradition, the interpreters of destiny, and the mediators between the physical and the spiritual realms.
Which is a huge responsibility.
Okay, let's unpack this, because interpreters of destiny it's a massive concept. If we break down the mechanics of what that actually means on a daily basis, it's really about navigating the unknown.
Right, because in a pre-industrial society, the world is wildly unpredictable.
Wildly unpredictable. You've got droughts, diseases, sudden conflicts. These are literally existential threats. When a Yoruba citizen faced these terrors, they didn't just, guess at a solution.
No, they went to the chief priest.
Exactly. The priest utilized these incredibly complex systems of divination to consult the spiritual realm. And the ancestors weren't viewed as just, they weren't gone.
Right, they were active, invisible members of the community.
Yes. Their wisdom could be actively accessed to solve very real physical problems.
Which creates an incredibly cohesive society, if you think about it. If the elder handles the family disputes, the king handles the governance, and the priest handles the cosmic unpredictability, you have a complete safety net.
A total safety net.
This triad maintained a highly defined moral order. It provided ultimate stability, a clear identity, and just a profound sense of belonging.
Yeah.
The physical world and the spiritual world weren't separate domains.
Right. They were deeply intertwined layers of the exact same reality.
Yeah.
I actually picture this traditional system as a perfectly calibrated, closed-loop operating system on a computer.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because in modern Western society, we tend to separate our lives into different apps, right? You open your governance app to vote, your spirituality app on Sunday mornings, and your career app on Monday.
Right, we heavily compartmentalize.
Exactly. But in this pre-contact Yoruba society, there are no separate apps. Governance, spirituality, agriculture, daily family life, they are all written in the exact same lines of code.
So you cannot update the spirituality code without completely rewriting the entire operating system of the community.
Yes, you absolutely nailed it.
And taking that analogy further, a closed-loop system where the moral order and daily reality are perfectly synchronized, that generates an immense amount of societal stability.
And what happens when a society is stable?
It becomes prosperous, it produces surplus goods, it builds expansive, safe cities, and, well, that very prosperity acts as a magnet.
Right, it draws people in.
Exactly. A closed-loop system is incredibly secure, but its own success inevitably draws the attention of the expanding world around it. Wealth and stability attract long-distance commerce.
So, in a way, the success of the system essentially invited its own disruptors. Which brings us to the introduction of outside forces.
And it's important to note that the new faiths didn't arrive all at once.
Right. They came in two distinct waves, filtering into Yoruba land through these expanding networks of contact. First came Islam.
Brought mostly by merchants.
Yeah, it arrived primarily through the arteries of commerce, carried by merchants and scholars across the Saharan trade routes. Later, Christianity arrived, but through a very different mechanism.
Right, carried by European missionaries.
Exactly, and backed by the accelerating weight of colonial influence.
What's fascinating here is the nature of that initial introduction. It was defined by quiet coexistence. It was a slow trickle rather than an explosive clash of civilizations.
Wait, a quiet coexistence?
Yeah, when Islam first arrived with those merchants, it just integrated into the marketplace. It facilitated trade agreements. And when Christianity first appeared, it established small, peripheral missions.
Stop right there because I have a massive problem with the logic of that coexistence.
Oh, how so?
Well, Islam and Christianity are strict monotheistic religions. Their foundational premise is absolute exclusivity, like, thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Right.
So how on earth does an Islamic merchant or a Christian missionary sit quietly and peacefully in a society built entirely on polytheistic ancestral reverence and multiple spiritual intermediaries?
That's a great point.
I mean, it seems completely contradictory to the nature of those new faiths to just politely share the space?
Well, it seems contradictory until you look at the mechanism of power at that specific moment in history.
Okay, tell me more.
The quiet coexistence didn't happen because the new faiths suddenly became incredibly tolerant of polytheism. It happened because of leverage.
Oh, leverage.
Yeah. When a handful of foreign merchants walk into a massive, heavily fortified, culturally unified Yoruba kingdom, they do not have the political, economic, or demographic leverage to demand that the king tear down the ancestral shrines.
I guess that makes sense. If they start denouncing the local gods on day one, they just get expelled.
Exactly. They get kicked out and they lose access to the trade routes.
So it's really just a matter of pragmatism.
Pure pragmatism.
Hmm.
The traditional Yoruba system was so deeply entrenched and structurally sound that the new arrivals had to play by the local rules.
Wow.
Think of it like an invasive plant species introduced into an ancient forest. A single seed drops into the shade of a massive, established oak tree, which is our traditional Yoruba system.
Right.
That tiny seed doesn't immediately declare war on the oak. It can't. It just quietly puts down roots in the periphery. It exists in the underbrush, drawing whatever water it can, slowly growing its own root network just out of sight.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The merchants are trading, the scholars are setting up small study circles, the early missionaries are building isolated clinics.
Exactly.
They aren't trying to chop down the oak tree, they are just spreading their roots in the same soil. They offer utility.
Yes, utility is the key word here.
Like, maybe an Islamic merchant offers a better line of credit to a Yoruba trader because they share a legal framework. Or a Christian missionary offers modern medicine to a sick villager.
Precisely. They provide tangible benefits that don't immediately appear to threaten the cosmic authority of the king or the chief priest. But roots grow.
They do.
And eventually, an invasive species builds a large enough network beneath the soil that it begins to compete for the core resources of the forest. The slow trickle of new ideas, the gradual conversions of local traders, the slow enrollment of children in mission schools, it all compounds over decades.
Which triggers the tipping point.
Yes, the quiet coexistence shatters.
The new religions reach a critical mass where they no longer need to play by the rules of the old operating system. They begin to actively reshape the spiritual landscape.
And this reshaping cascades through the society.
It does, resulting in 3 specific consequences. It challenges old practices, it redefines authority, and it fundamentally alters how the Yoruba people see themselves and their world. It becomes this total transformation of identity, culture, and power.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the redefinition of authority is the exact moment the closed-loop system breaks open.
Let's dig into that.
Let's look at the mechanism of that authority. Earlier, we established that the chief priests and kings were the sole interpreters of destiny.
Right, the ultimate safety net.
But what happens when a Christian missionary builds a school and a hospital and tells the local population that healing doesn't come from an ancestor, but from their God?
Oh, wow.
And further, that destiny isn't interpreted through traditional divination, but through reading a foreign holy text.
So what does this all mean for the people actually living through it? Because the psychological weight is almost unimaginable.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah, I mean, if the chief priest, the literal bridge between your family and the safety of the spiritual realm, is suddenly proven powerless, or, his authority is aggressively bypassed by a new wealthy colonial institution, you are completely unmoored.
Absolutely. The very mechanism you use to understand reality is fractured.
You are facing a fundamental crisis of reality. The moral order that provided everyday stability is suddenly being dismantled from the inside out.
Right. And when the new institutions begin defining what is good, what is true, and who holds power, the traditional leaders are stripped of their cosmic monopoly.
They really are.
They are reduced from spiritual mediators to mere historical figureheads in the eyes of the converts.
And a societal identity crisis of that magnitude inevitably fractures the community. They can no longer operate on that single unified code we talked about earlier.
No, the code is broken.
The Yoruba people are violently pulled into a cultural tug-of-war over how to respond to this unavoidable reality. The old anchors are lifting, and massive global currents are dragging them in entirely different directions.
Which creates a profound dichotomy within the society. On one side of this tug-of-war, you have individuals and communities who actively embraced Islam and Christianity.
But we have to understand the why behind their choice, right?
Exactly. It wasn't just a sudden spiritual awakening. Embracing the new faiths was a calculated path to progress and global connection.
Right, they were looking at the writing on the wall. By adopting Islam, a Yoruba merchant suddenly taps into a vast trans-Saharan network of trade, credit, and shared legal protections.
It's an economic game changer.
And by adopting Christianity, a Yoruba family gains access to mission schools. Those schools teach the literacy and European languages that are absolutely necessary to navigate the rapidly encroaching colonial bureaucracy.
So embracing the new faith is literally the key to surviving the new economy.
Exactly.
But on the other side of the rope, you have those who viewed these new faiths not as progress, but as a devastating disruption.
Yeah, the resistance.
Right. They saw the adoption of foreign religions as a severe erosion of ancestral wisdom and cultural pride. For this group, burning a shrine or abandoning a traditional festival wasn't just like a change of habit.
No, it was an amputation of their history.
Exactly. It was a betrayal of the ancestors who built the very society that allowed them to thrive in the first place.
And it is so crucial to recognize that both of these perspectives are incredibly rational responses to the changing environment.
Oh, absolutely. Neither side is crazy here.
Right. Embracing the new genuinely meant accessing global integration, new technologies, and economic survival. Resisting the new genuinely meant protecting the vital, sacred moral order that had kept their people safe, cohesive, and deeply rooted for centuries.
This is a brutal choice.
It really is. Do you sacrifice the roots of your tree to reach higher into the newly open sky? Or do you protect the roots at all costs, even if it means you will be overshadowed by the growing forest around you?
It is the ultimate tension of human evolution, playing out across millions of lives in southwestern Nigeria. The friction between the promise of global connection and the terror of cultural erasure is intense enough to rip a society apart.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because when you look at that level of tension, a complete fracturing of identity, culture, and cosmic power, you expect the society to collapse.
You really do.
You expect the story to end with the traditional Yoruba system being completely destroyed and entirely replaced by European Christianity and Arabic Islam. But that isn't what happened.
No, it isn't. The historical reality is far more complex than the simple erasure. Instead of collapsing, the Yoruba society engaged in a profound act of adaptation.
A massive synthesis.
Yes. Out of the immense friction between the old world and the new world, an entirely new Yoruba society began to emerge.
They didn't just passively accept the new operating system, they hacked it.
Yes, they hacked it.
They took the new inputs, the global trade networks, the new religious texts, the modern literacy, and forced them to run through a distinctly Yoruba processor.
This raises such an important question about the nature of cultural resilience. When a society is pressed between the immense weight of foreign influence and the deep, unyielding bedrock of its own ancestral history, the result is rarely pure destruction.
It is synthesis.
Exactly. The new Yoruba society found a way to carry the weight of both realities. They didn't just memorize the new religious texts, they translated them into Yoruba, subtly infusing foreign concepts with traditional linguistic weight.
I want to pause here and ask you, the listener, to reflect on the mechanics of this tug-of-war in your own world. We are analyzing a massive historical and spiritual shift in Nigeria, but the underlying mechanism of adaptation is deeply universal.
It really applies to everything.
It does. Think about a major disruption in your own life or career. How often do you feel that exact same tension, that heavy pull to adopt the new and global, the new technology, the new corporate philosophy, the new cultural norms, just so you can survive and move forward?
Versus the protective instinct to hold on to your traditional and familiar roots.
Right. The way your family taught you to operate so you don't lose the core of who you are. It's a universal struggle.
We constantly negotiate between the demands of the future and the gravity of the past. The Yoruba experience just magnifies that negotiation to a civilizational scale.
Let's pull all these threads together. We started by examining a perfectly calibrated, closed-loop society, a world strictly guided by kings, elders, and chief priests who maintained ultimate stability.
Right, they weren't just politicians, they were the mediators of destiny. They kept the physical and spiritual worlds balanced through deep ancestral reverence.
We then tracked how the immense success of that society attracted the expanding world. We saw the quiet, invasive roots of Islam and Christianity arriving along trade routes and colonial pathways.
And we analyzed how these faiths initially survived through pragmatism, right? Just existing in the margins until they grew vast enough to challenge the core of the forest.
Which triggered a ticking point that shattered the old closed-loop system, actively dismantling the cosmic monopoly of the traditional leaders.
Plunging the Yoruba people into a massive societal tension.
Exactly, a brutal choice between accessing global progress and defending against the erosion of their cultural pride. And finally, we saw that the immense pressure didn't break them. It forged them into a complex, synthesized new society.
As we look at the reality of that synthesized society, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We spent a lot of time discussing how the old power structures were aggressively challenged and how the chief priests and elders lost their absolute authority as the sole interpreters of destiny.
They really took a massive hit.
They did. But when a new society emerges from the intense friction of ancestral wisdom and global faiths, do the old traditions ever truly disappear?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Or do they just put on new clothes?
Yeah.
Consider this. Is it possible that the ancient ancestral mediators didn't die out, but instead adapted?
Wow.
Taking on new names, sitting quietly in the pews of modern churches or the rugs of new mosques, still subtly shaping the destiny of the people from the shadows.
That is a haunting and brilliant lens to look through. The idea that the ancient roots are still down there, quietly directing the flow of the new forest. We're going to leave you to chew on that one.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the spiritual and cultural evolution of Yoruba identity. We hope it gave you a new understanding of how the mechanics of society and human identity adapt to massive disruption. Keep questioning the historical narratives and keep seeking out the real aha moments hiding beneath the surface. Catch you next time.
I am Dr. Olabanji Olagunju. Thank you for being with us on today's Educative Insight. Please don't forget to love, like, and share. Most importantly, subscribe to this channel for more insightful exploit until we come your way again. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Ọmọ wa tí agbára kò lè ní, ibi tí ó wà, ọ̀rọ̀ rẹ̀ ní ibẹ̀. Ayé níbi, gbogbo wa ní nílọ. Àdìmúlà bí ó ti pé ó láíláí. Bànjọ́lá gùnjù àfi gbéraga. Ayẹlẹ́tọ̀ rẹ̀ ní gbogbo ìgbà. Oríkìrè tí a máa fi gbọ́. Ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́. Tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn, má fi gbàgbọ́. Àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa. Ire ni ó mú wa nítorí tí a nífẹ̀ẹ́. Èmi rẹ̀ dá kí ó máa wà ní bẹ̀lẹ́bẹ̀. Ọmọ àdìmúlà tí ó yẹ gbọ́. gbogbo ènìyàn ni wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí, gbogbo wa nígbọ́. Ọ̀rọ̀ tí ọ̀rọ̀ láyé ìyàká, wá sí mi máa wò ìfẹ́ mi ò ní sọ̀rọ̀. Oríkìrè tí a máa fi gbọ́, ọmọ wa ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́n. Tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn, máa fi ìgbàgbọ́ àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa. Àìlà fún wa pẹ̀lú orísun gbogbo. Ìjà bá ń pa, àforíkì wa sọ̀rọ̀. Ọ̀njì bí orúkọ rẹ̀ ṣe sọ̀rẹ́, kòǹgbà kájọ fi wọ́n rí àyọ̀dọ̀ rẹ̀. Oríkìrè tí a máa fi gbọ́, ọmọ wa ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́n. Tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn, máa fi ìgbàgbọ́ àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa. Ọ̀njọ́ lágúnjú ni mo nífẹ̀ẹ́, Oríkìrè ó máa gbé wa lórí.